COVID meeting.
Conference will now be recorded.
Another COVID meeting, so we're doing this virtually again. So whether we be the next one, we'll certainly be able to figure that out as we go forward. The members of the audience that are joining us, Trish, and I don't know what your cohort's name is there.
Darcy.
Okay. Trish and Darcy, I'm Mike Walker. I'm the chair of the Police Services Board. We have Wayne Evans, who's the bearded guy down on the lower level there. He's the provincial appointee to the board. And John Creelman, who you know, is the deputy mayor and the council member. And Ann Butler, who you see there, is our representative from the community policing committee that we have here within Mono. And then Cheyenne Hancock. Cheyenne is our board secretary. So we're fairly informal, but formal in some ways. So we have to go through the agenda as per norm. I'm going to juggle it a little bit so that it makes a little bit more sense today. But first of all, folks, for the members, is there any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest? Okay, having seen none, we'll move on. I'm going to ask now for the approval of the agenda. Can we have a mover to approve the agenda for today's meeting? Wayne Evans, seconded by John Creelman. All in favor, opposed, carried. The approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was February 17th. You all had an opportunity to review them. Are there any errors or omissions or changes that you wish to make?
None that I saw anyway. No.
Okay, a motion from Wayne to approve, seconded by John, and all in favor, opposed, carried. So now we move to normally the public question period, but we're going to do the delegation, then we'll have the public question period. I note that we do not have the Ontario Provincial Police on the call, so we will have to relay any questions that are related to that, or answer questions and answers will have to be taken by the board back to them. Obviously, there's some operational issues for them today that does not allow them to join us at this time. So Trish, Darcy, we have, all of us have reviewed the presentation that you did provide in writing to council, and I've also reviewed the video of the council minutes of the council meeting, and John was there, he is aware also. So I'm fully aware of all of the issues that you brought up at that meeting, and realizing that the board is restrained to only deal with matters of our contract with the Ontario Provincial Police. We set the strategies at the beginning of the year. One of the main strategies, of course, is road safety and law enforcement. And then with the money that we have in our budget, we go back to them, and then they operationally respond to what our requests are within that envelope. And as you're aware, we've had a lot of out of the envelope expenses this year already due to center, et cetera. So go ahead and hit us the main points for the benefit of Wayne, who may not have the full, he's way up on 25 Side Road, so it's all very quiet up there. So he doesn't hear the noise. So go ahead, Trish.
Okay, well, thanks for having us today, and thanks for reading the deputation that we made to Mono Council. I guess our main reason for wanting to come to the Police Services Board was that most of the solutions that we're suggesting do involve the OPP in one way or another. So we thought that this was a way to ensure that those issues made their way to the OPP. We're presenting certainly not only on our own behalf, but we had a really amazing reaction and response to the survey that the petition that we sent out. And so there are a lot of really, really upset people on the Hockley Road. And they're, you know, to the point where people are saying they just are going to have to move, they can't take it, they're going, you know, it's affecting their mental health and so on. So it's not just a few whiners, you know. I think it's a very serious issue for us. It is a residential road, and it's not being treated that way, that's for sure. So I guess, I mean, in a general sense, our three issues are noise, which we've suggested a few ways that that could be addressed, but does certainly involve the OPP to try and the Mono Council actually to establish a noise bylaw that is specific to motorcycles, the way Caledon has done and a few other places. Speed is the second key issue that, you know, is a problem with most of the vehicles on the road, but certainly the motorcycles that scream by at very high speeds, and also increasingly the huge transport trucks, which I don't know why, but that's increased dramatically over the last year or so. I know that that's not an OPP problem. It's more an issue that we need to take forward to Dufferin County. But it's one that, you know, many people raised in the petition. And then I guess our third issue is trucks. So those three things, and we just feel that we know that's a cost to Mono to increase surveillance, but there's probably no other solution that's going to work as well, other than our favorite solution, which is to close the road on weekends and just have it for local traffic. And you might laugh, but it's doable. We're closing roads all over the place in Mono, so we could close Hockley Road too, and it would make a huge difference. But short of that, I think that just a really increased presence and maybe a real blitz on the road where there's radar and there's OPP at either end of Hockley Road.
It's the weekends though.
Yeah, on the weekends are the worst.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
Absolutely outrageous.
Yeah. And yes, and we don't really see OPP much on the weekends around here. So that would be a huge help. And I think, I mean, ultimately what you want is for the motorcycle world to be told through their magazines and their networks that this is no longer a very good road to travel on, and hope that that will have some impact on keeping the noise down. Do you have anything to add?
But just to say, I want to reiterate, right, it is primarily on the weekends, and I know that the OPP, you know, they've got it's a hard time with the, you know, short staff and everything, but that's the worst of it. You know, I mean, we're where we live, we're about 300 feet off the road, so but it's still the people live right on the road. I don't know how they do it. Like it's bad enough at 300 feet in the back, but they're right on the road, and there's many houses like that, and they have children.
Yeah, people are very concerned about their kids,
and they're walking from one neighbor to the other, and a motorcycle flies by at 100, whatever. It's just something has to be done about it.
One of the other suggestions that we've made is to have a community safety zone around where people park to go to Mono Cliffs, or to the Bruce Trail, I should say. And that's a really busy parking lot. It's always jam full on the weekends, and people have to walk on Hockley Road
to a good distance
to the Bruce Trail.
To the head of the trail.
So that area could very easily be made a community safety zone, I think. And then, as I understand it, then the OPP could actually use photo radar, which would help to at least slow people down. We have heard, and we're delighted to hear, that the Dufferin OPP have initiated a an initiative for the summer to really try to address the noise and speed. And so we're thrilled about that, but we sure would love to hear a little bit more about how they plan to do that. I don't know if anyone here knows more detail than what was in the release that we received.
Well, Trish, luckily, the nice man in the white shirt, his name is Inspector Terry Ward, and Terry is our detachment commander. We're lucky to have him. He's been working very, very hard with us. Is very patient with us as a board in the issue brought to them. And as you alluded to with that press release that we did forward to you, or actually John, I believe, forwarded to you. We had been talking to Inspector Ward about this prior to to your council presentation, because we were aware of the issues, and Inspector Ward is ahead of the game on this and has addressed that with the initiatives that you've seen, plus other things. So I'll ask Inspector Ward if he has any comments with respect to the items that are under our, not direction, but we can relate to, which would be the enforcement of noise and any potential speeding issues. The other issues with respect to community safety zones, photo radar, et cetera, are municipal or county issues, so they'd have to be dealt with at the council level. Inspector Ward?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, don't think your complaints fall on deaf ears. I mean, I'm getting these complaints from pretty much every municipality in Dufferin County, and I mean, the pros and cons, I guess, are the pros, the people are moving, the cons is the noise and the amount of volume. And I mean, we're not other than Mono Cliffs, we're not a stopping location, right? We're a throughway. And that's what seems to be happening right now. It's quite an increase in traffic. You know, it sounds like the old cliche, we're doing our best, but we are. And I mean, from an enforcement standpoint, we've almost doubled the enforcement in the first quarter. So January, February, and March in Mono that was done all last year.
Wow.
So we're out there, we're taking a heavy stance on it. But unfortunately, with manpower, and like I said, we have, other than Mono, 7 other municipalities that we have to police, each with their own problems. We just can't, I mean, Mono has the enhancement officer, but again, that officer doesn't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So again, we try to schedule him in the heavier times and the busier times. And trust me, that officer is out there laying a lot of enforcement, like heavy enforcement. So again, we are doing our best to try and control it. And I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish I could come up here and say, oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and everything's going to be great. I mean, the reality of it is we go out on that road and we lay some tickets and people see us and they slow down, right? And the minute we're gone, it fires up again.
Right.
So it's that never-ending game of, you know, if you want to put an officer out there to slow the traffic down, yeah, we could do that. But the minute we leave, it just starts all over again. So it's that vicious cycle. But again, that's what we have to do, right? We continue to do the visibility piece to try and control the traffic, control the speeds. We do the enforcement as much as we can. With the noise, I mean, we're kind of limited under the Highway Traffic Act. It's unnecessary, unreasonable, right? Those are the 2 charges we can lay under the Highway Traffic Act. So again, we have to be able to have reasonable and probable grounds to believe. We have to be able to go, you know, to some of the stuff that's modified, some of the other things that vehicles are doing, we can take an enforcement role. If it's not a modified, or it's not, say, for example, a Harley Davidson that are a loud vehicle going by your residence, we're kind of limited as far as what we can do for the noise. But again, right, we have started this initiative. Our officers are out there. They're trying to educate and enforce. And now that we've put this initiative in place, it's going to be a high angle on enforcement. It's just a matter of, are we in the right place at the right time? And that's what it all comes down to, right? And again, I keep repeating myself, but we are trying to do our best. I mean, we're spending a lot of time in mono, and I mean, the results are showing. We have the results to show that we are putting a heavy enforcement on, especially in Hockley and Airport. So, I mean, I wish I could give you the ultimate answer and make you go away today and think everything's going to be great starting tomorrow. All I can say is we're out there doing our best and trying to control the traffic and do the enforcement piece as best we can. And you know, I'm working with the police services boards, and some of the ideas we can do, some of the ideas we can't do. Right? Sometimes our hands get tied as well. So that's pretty much all I can offer right now, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Inspector. Any further questions, Trish or Darcy, to the inspector?
Are you advertising the fact that you have this initiative beyond? Like, would people know about that so they could
Feel something's being done.
So we did put the press release out, right? Again, our hands are tied because we only have a certain market that we could hit with the local, right? So it's the local people that get the press release, but the people that are traveling through, you know, the GTA and all that area, are they seeing the press release? No. Do I have the ability to advertise down there? No. Right? That's the difference. We did do, our media officer did do a little traffic safety initiative with Sergeant Kerry Smith, who's the media officer for down in the GTA. We did that back, I'm going to say a few weeks ago. They actually did a live broadcast to try and reach those people because we know the problems are not local problems. They're the influx of people traveling to and from, right? So, but it's a tough haul to try and hit the message. And at the end of the day, unless I specifically, the advertisement, it's the old joke that if you have a road closed sign and it doesn't say, "Hey, Trish, the road is closed," people go, "Well, that's not aimed at me," and they go around it, right? So we get that same problem with speeding, with noise, with everything else. Is people go, "Oh, well, they're talking to somebody else. They're not talking to me." And so that's when it comes back to the enforcement piece. So yeah, like that's a tough haul to try and get our message out to the people that actually need our message.
So one of the other solutions would be the same as the Mono Center solution, where the town pays for extra police officers to spot enforce this problem area if council wanted to do that. And you know, the costs are not low. It's $105 an hour for an officer and a car. So if you're looking at guys to do a trap for a weekend, you're in the $1,600 range. So you know, that would have to be council's decision as to whether they wanted to enter into something like that. John, do you have comments?
A couple of things. First of all, the motorcycle traffic is somewhat predictable in as much as they appear to be congregating at the Hockley Valley or the Hockley Road store. And then they set out from there traveling down Hockley Road towards Highway 10. So it's almost like a convoy. And I think these are organized groups and they travel in large numbers that you hear. There's problems with that in as much as if you try and cite one of them for noise, their defense is, well, it wasn't me, it was the motorcycle beside me, you know, and it's a defense that's often used by speeders in terms of whether the radar or LiDAR device was pointed in the right direction. But I think that a little bit of observation would give us a sense of how to deploy a paid duty officer, what time of day would be most productive, given what is occurring from the general store. The other comment that was made and I'm glad, Terry, that you're here because there is a concern about truck traffic, and I have a theory about the truck traffic, and that is, in my experience, a large volume of trucks suddenly appearing on a road has to do with one of two things: either fulfillment of just-in-time delivery, or the trucks aren't roadworthy, or they're overloaded and they're trying to avoid weigh scales. And of course, we have no weigh scales, permanent weigh scales, closer than down in Caledon, which I think is tragic, and the MPP has been lobbying on this. But we do have portable weigh scales that the OPP owns. And if you can find the right spot to safely pull over a transport truck suspected, or a dump truck that's suspected of being overloaded, that might be an activity that could be considered. And the OPP has a designated officers for that activity, and they're trained to use the portable weigh scales and give evidence in court. I just throw these things out. I know I'm treading in the realm of operational advice, but sometimes thinking out loud can be productive.
So just a comment to that through the chair. We did do an overload blitz this year in Mono, and if memory serves, I think there was something like 20 charges laid. So we have done that. The problem with those is, again, it's not sustainable to do it all summer. It's one of those things where we hit it and then we have to go away from it, because it's a heavy resource, right? It's not just a one officer thing. It takes a minimum of 2 officers to run the scales. It takes other officers to do traffic control. You have to have the right place. So it's a great initiative, but it's not something that's sustainable we can say we're going to do that every week. Again, it falls back to what Mr. Chair said about, if the municipality wants to pay for that service, but again, that's not a cheap fix. It's a good, it gets response and it gets results, but again, it's not an easy fix to have that. And we did that one blitz in Mono, which resulted in a lot of charges being laid. But we involved, it was involved our Central Region Traffic Unit, the Ministry of Transportation was involved, their inspectors. It was heavy on the personnel.
Yeah. If I can just elaborate on this, again, my hunch is that if we can set an example and word gets out that there is a low threshold of tolerance for speeding or trucking inappropriately on back roads, word does travel. So it's not an issue of whether you're trying to do it weekday and week out. It's really getting the message out there that a certain section of road attracts a certain number of officers from time to time, and it doesn't, as I say, it doesn't have to be every weekend. But right now, I think the word is out that some places are fun to race your bikes, and they're fun for transport trucks to travel on, rather than driving out in the direction of Highway 10 and then south to 9. They think that the Hockley Road is a nice shortcut. We can have a word with the operator of the Brock Pit to make certain that dump trucks that are going in and out of there are confining themselves to the highway system as distinct from local roads as well.
They're not.
Oh, I know they're not. I know.
I found that most transport trucks I see are Gibsons, so maybe we could have a word with the owner of Gibsons, because they're just taking the Hockley Road, and they go across to Veterans Way and bypass the town that way. So maybe the town could have a discreet word with Gibsons and tell them that their just-in-time transportation for Honda is annoying the ratepayers.
That's a great idea.
But is the road not
I'll
designated?
make sure that happens.
Can you designate the road? This is such a residential road. I mean, I thought it's not. Can't you designate the fact that you can't allow transport trucks on a residential road? I know it's a county road, but you know, it's all
Yeah, so
houses.
this goes back to the county issue that
Okay.
unfortunately is outside of the jurisdiction of our board. What is designated as a truck route or not designated as a truck route, we have no influence from this board.
And your issues are going to be discussed at the next county committee meeting. I had that confirmation yesterday.
Oh, thank you.
And the difficulty is that there is a philosophical difference between the county road custodian and residents of the county road insofar as traffic is concerned. County roads are seen as secondary only to provincial highways as movers of great numbers of vehicles, both small and large. But I think we do have some opportunities here. The county could declare a community safety zone as suggested. And I've asked for some further information about that. There is, of course, the issue of speed limit. That's a hard argument to make. I found it when I tried to convince the county to reduce the speed limit on Hockley in proximity to Airport Road, which was ultimately done with great success. But your presentation covers a fair amount of territory between Mono, the county, and the Police Service Board. But I think it's important that Terry hears the concerns and goes away with the thought that this is an area that maybe we need to pay attention to. But I can speak to his resource issue. We have been putting huge pressure on the OPP insofar as enforcement of new parking regulations around Mono Cliffs. That's going to let up. It's not sustainable. We're going to have to use our own bylaw enforcement to do that on a go-forward basis. And then, of course, there's the usual speedways like Airport Road and various other points in the county where people are driving recklessly and still are doing so, notwithstanding all the enforcement that's gone on.
Wayne.
Yeah, Terry, I just wanted to understand. I thought that I know you guys are trying to do it, but the noise, is that a difficult thing to enforce or to quantify? Or do you have decibel meters, or what is the process, or is it just I know modified? That's obvious in terms, or anything that's been changed. I mean, sometimes people take baffles out and things like that. That's a different thing. But is it hard to quantify the noise level unless you have a decibel meter? And I understand, what's the criteria? What's the revs? What's the distance? I'm just wondering how complicated that gets, because I know, I've read about California. A lot of places have tried it, and I guess there's some success, but it sounds like it can be challenged, and John could probably speak to that as well, in the courts as well.
So yeah, Wayne, I'll answer your question through the chair. You basically answered your own question. Yes, it's a tough thing to prove. I just had conversation with the detachment commander down in Caledon, because I've kind of stirred the pot, so to speak, for getting this initiative going, because his municipalities are wanting the same thing. But he's had conversation with the local Crown and prosecutors, and they're all saying those charges will all be thrown out. So what's the sense? My response to that is, I think we have to try. At the end of the day, it's the initiative that counts, not the result. Like, we want results, but ultimately, once it gets to court, as Deputy Mayor can attest to, it's kind of out of our hands once it gets to court. We can only do the best job we can moving forward. But you're correct; those are hard cases to prove in court. And so, but again, I look at it from the point of, I think we need to have these initiatives, if for nothing else, and to get the people thinking and try to get some results. That's my thoughts going forward.
Thank you.
Wayne,
Okay,
you
any
raised an interesting point about decibel readings and so forth. I had a long talk with our municipal prosecutor who said that there are municipal noise bylaws coming out now that are getting away from the necessity of a measurement from a device. And that's a good thing, because measurements from devices such as radar devices are problematic, and they're always subject to challenge in court. But some of the wording is becoming much more subjective in terms of, if I hear a loud noise, it's a loud noise. I'm going to pursue that with him. But back to the issue of what's thrown out in court, I'm always dismayed at the assumption that prosecutors make that if it's a waste of time bringing a case forward. Frankly, they don't know until they do. And when they do, they might be pleasantly surprised. And I think the headline that says 20 people charged with creation of excessive noise can be very effective. And if 19 of those people get off, you'll never hear about it. But in the meantime, the people who are potentially creating excessive noise will get the message that they can be charged.
Good point.
Okay, any other comments, Darcy or Trish?
All you have to do is stand on the side of the road. It is deafening. You don't need a meter to tell you that.
Yeah, that's for sure. No, I think that's it for us. And I just want to especially thank John. He's been
John, thank you.
So helpful in all of this, and as have our other counselors, but especially John. And we feel vaguely optimistic. So I will be getting back to all the people on our petition and letting them know what's happening. And so you know, we do hope to see some results. Yeah, but thanks for all the efforts that the OPP is making. Appreciate that.
The OPP, just wanted to tell you that it's the weekends. I know nobody wants to work on the weekends, but that's what happened.
No, I hear what you're saying. I'm not naive to the issue. It's just, again, right, it's that old telltale where we go out there and we drive up the road and we maybe get one person, and then that slows everybody down, and then that officer disappears, right, goes around, and then the traffic starts again, and it's just that vicious cycle. And trust me, I hear you, and we are working on it. And like I said, the enforcement out there, especially on those two roads, we're dialing in on it, and we're doing the best we can. So don't think that your issues are falling on deaf ears, because they're not. And we are going to do our best to try and do more enforcement, and try and help it as best we can. It's just sometimes we get roadblocked the same as everybody else. So you know, staffing, and again, like I said, we cover all the 8 municipalities of Dufferin County, and they all have the same type of problem. So we're throwing resources at every municipality every weekend, trying to control, and sometimes it even gets out of hand for us. So but we are doing our best with what we have. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
So you're from Trish and Darcy. Before you go, you're familiar with when you went as a kid to the exhibition and you played whack-a-mole? Right. It just keeps popping up.
Right.
That's what Inspector Ward is playing, whack-a-mole, and he has only one big hammer, and so it's hard to hit all the moles as they jump up at the same time. So he's doing as best as he can, and I believe that council passed a motion, and we're looking for a report back from the service board. So I have a motion here that I'd like to read out that could be conveyed back to council to indicate the results of our meeting today. Motion to communicate to Mono Council, and Cheyenne, I'll give you this in in good format. To Mono Council, that Mono Police Services Board has received the delegation from Hockley Road residents and has reviewed their comments with respect to the management of vehicle speeding and noise. These matters had already been brought to the attention of the OPP Detachment Commander, who works the Dufferin OPP and Central Region Traffic partner for a summer initiative to increase compliance of the Highway Traffic Act as it relates to unnecessary noise through education and enforcement. The focus will be on improperly maintained and modified vehicles, which includes autos, motorcycles, and trucks that are causing unnecessary and excessive noise for the citizens of Dufferin County. Further, the OPP will explore speed enforcement initiatives on Hockley Road and will identify to the town any additional costs to provide these extra duties over and above the current enhancement. Is that motion acceptable, Wayne and John?
Yes. Mr.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Seconder?
Second.
Wayne seconding. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Trish and Darcy. And it's great to have heard from you again. As I said, I did watch the video, so I did see your presentation. But I think you can be rest assured that your message has been received.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to our agenda, matters arising from the minutes. I don't believe we had any matters arising from the minutes. Inspector Ward, who is Jay Moore and why is that person jumped onto our call here?
I have no idea who he is, Mr. Chair. No, I'm just kidding. So I was going to do for my presentation, we've had a few staffing changes at the detachment right now. So Detective Sergeant Terry Padden has gone to fill a detective staff sergeant role for a while. And Staff Sergeant Dave McLagan has been pulled to region as well to fill a detective staff sergeant role. So Sergeant Jay Moore has stepped into Dave's role. So Jay is our acting staff sergeant right now, along with Staff Sergeant Jellick. But Staff Sergeant Jellick's away on a course. So
okay.
So basically it's Jay and I running the ship. So I wanted Jay to be involved as well in some of these police service board reports and meetings because he's going to be the go-to guy for me. So
maybe I'll just
tell him turn the camera on so we can see him.
To function, so I apologize for that.
Oh, it's not work. His camera's not working.
Oh, nice. Okay, he's undercover.
He's
okay,
a good-looking guy, though, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay. I'll watch for him when I'm out there speeding. Does he drive the silver-colored Dodge? Or is that you? Okay. Status update. Deputy Mayor Creelman, update on the provincial offense officer.
So we started out with the intention of hiring a second bylaw officer, which quickly became a second and a third to assist with the issuance of Part 2 certificates, parking tickets. And we're now down to one new officer. He's a veteran of the Orangeville Police Service. Really good guy, totally unflappable. And it remains to be seen whether we're going to bring our service level up to 3 officers. It depends, I think, much depends on how it goes this weekend, next weekend. But we're very happy, and the objective at the very beginning was to avoid putting pressure on the OPP to hand out parking tickets. It is everyone's least favorite activity from beginning to end, from the handing of the ticket to an unhappy person to the trial in provincial offences court that goes on forever and ever and ever and usually results in a conviction.
Okay, very good. Any questions to Deputy Mayor on the issue of the provincial offense officer? Okay, once again, Deputy Mayor, update on the provincial government's response to the town to charge higher fees for speeding offences.
Well, long story, 2 years. We have been awaiting a response from the Minister of Transportation on our letter with regard to increasing basic speeding fines that haven't been touched in about 30 years, along with our plea to allow us to use automated speed enforcement on roads greater than 79 kilometers per hour. And without the requirement of declaration of a community safety zone. The letter actually came back via another municipality, which, believe it or not, got a response to our letter, but it wasn't signed by the minister. We ultimately saw the minister's response, and she says absolutely nothing. Everything is under review all the time, and we are taking your concerns very seriously. And you know, the violent accompaniment is just awful. And this is an issue that I've personally spoken to her about twice. And on one occasion, she looked seriously concerned that there was a double standard between municipalities with roadways of 80 kilometers per hour and downtown Toronto, and ordered her staff to look into it, and absolutely nothing has happened. So I'm going to speak to that a little later in the meeting with regard to the changes having to do with stunt speeding. But we are very disappointed, and I'm not giving up.
Okay. Again, John, towing bylaw update.
Unless anyone has a different opinion, I think, to the province's credit, their legislation, Bill 182, I believe, has taken care of this in as much as they're going to set up a regime, they're going to set up a licensing process. And we've been assured that some of our concerns, like having a known schedule of towing rates and impoundment charges, will be addressed. One big issue for us is the issue of people, towing truck drivers coming into our area and ending up with vehicles that they then take to their pound in Scarborough or Mississauga. And I hope that the regulations that the province will introduce will ensure that any vehicle seized in Dufferin County will stay in Dufferin County. But I don't get a sense that there is much of an appetite to pursue our own bylaws that, quite frankly, could be subsumed by what the province is now doing.
Okay, and moving smoothly along to automated speed enforcement, response from the minister.
Again, no interest whatsoever in lightening the regulation that now requires this to only be used in circumstances where the speed limit is less than 80 kilometers per hour and where where one has a community safety or school zone. I am sorely tempted to move a motion at council to declare the entire town of Mono a community safety zone and reduce speed limits by 1 kilometer per hour in order for us to be, in theory, eligible to implement the automated speed enforcement. It would be absolutely ridiculous, I agree, but it is ridiculous now that, again, we have this double standard as we now have with how they are approaching stunt driving. I live in hope that we will be able to implement automated speed enforcement in places in Mono where the speed limit is less than 80 and where a community safety zone exists. I would hope that it would be on some kind of portable basis And there are companies out there that you can retain that do it from the standpoint of pay all of the capital costs, they share the revenue with you, and it's basically a turnkey operation. The unfortunate thing is that the place where they met with the greatest success was Alberta, and with the new government in Alberta, they see this as a cash grab, and I think they're rolling it back. So I have been in touch with this firm to see what is possible, because it would be certainly nice to have somebody do the lion's share of the work, spend the lion's share of the money, and even if we don't see as much revenue as we might otherwise, it sends a very serious message to the driving public that photo radar is in the vicinity.
Okay, as president of the Orangeville Lions Club, I'd like to find out what my lion's share is going to be, because we need some funds. Okay, the final status update was for the detachment board, and I know that that's another matter that's hit a roadblock as well. So, John, any more rumors or innuendos on that?
Yes. As everyone knows, Mono put forward a proposal to all the other Dufferin area municipalities that there essentially be 4 police service boards, 3 for the rural municipalities of Dufferin, and 2 and a 4th one for Orangeville and Shelburne. This plan sort of got side railed. Long story, and there was little or no appetite for it from Shelburne or Orangeville, who wanted to maintain the status quo. I think the beauty of the model that we put forward, which we did send as a proposal to our MPP and Solicitor General, was that we would not experience any reduction in influence insofar as membership from municipal councils and locally appointed membership. And we also allowed for the fact that the province is still insisting on making appointments to detachment boards. So we thought it was a win-win-win for everyone, but at least 2 of the municipalities have decided to go their own way, and it's now expected that the province is simply going to impose whatever solution they had in mind in the first place on us.
Okay, Inspector, you probably haven't received any information that you're willing to share with us on that anyway.
Mr. Chair, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I get more insight from the police service board meetings than I do through any channels of ours. Again, because I guess ultimately it was, supposed to be the councils that decided, and a united front. And unfortunately, I don't think what we're going through in Dufferin is any different than a lot of different, other areas are having the same issues, right? I just had a police service board meeting with Orangeville and with Shelburne last night, and they both made it fairly clear that they think they should stand alone because they're in the transition, and they have a lot of reasons why they think they should. So, and again, I can't really comment on that because that's their decision, but ultimately they're not interested in being one unified front.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chair, I predict a huge fight province-wide on this. This is not going to go down well anywhere if the province comes in and Bigfoot's a solution of its own.
Yes, it will be interesting. Item that I didn't add to the agenda, but you might recall we had some discussions about acquiring another Black Cat radar device, and we had sent a letter out to the different municipalities to determine if they were interested in sharing with us or getting involved in the costs. And I did receive the we have received responses from just about everybody, and I received one from Shelburne last night, and basically nobody's interested in sharing a that with us. So if that's something that council wants to look at, then they can do so. An illustrious member of our Community Safety Committee, Power, has joined to the call here. And unfortunately, Tom, you've missed the public question and the delegation. So we've dealt with the Hockley Road matter, and I don't know what it was that you wanted to say, or but because we are benevolent folks, I'll let you ask your question.
Okay, I don't know if it was covered, but I'll just run this quickly if I could through Inspector Ward. I know the difficulty with the stopping of the motorcycles, but I wonder whether or not a blitz or a spot check could be set up at either end, alternative, or going at the same time. So Hockley Road and Airport Road and Hockley Road and Highway 10. And all you're doing is stopping them as they turn the corner on there, pulling them over, and you're checking them out for their muffler systems. The sports bike, their rear plates are usually pulled right up. You get on the 407 for free, and if you do the full radar, you'll never be pulled over because the plate is pulled up. I mean, that's something that can be done at that point. And if they are charged, it would be nice to see them go under Part B, where they go directly, they get a court date that day and not a fine. So upon conviction, maybe we can get some $500 convictions, and then that would seep through their community, and they're going, okay, there's a place they're going heavy on spot checks in the area, so stay away from. So that was my only part that I wanted to ask the inspector if that could be done.
Yeah, Inspector, comment on that?
Yeah, I'll just put a couple comments on it, Mr. Chair. We have to be very careful on how we do spot checks and what our authorities are to stop vehicles. So that's another issue that we would have to look at. I mean, ride checks are specifically for impaired driving. So we can't stumble outside of that realm to, especially when we have a hidden intent, right? So we have to be careful with that. Some of the other issues that you're talking about have already been covered as far as manpower. I mean, yeah, it's a great idea that we want to box off that road for a certain length of time. I don't have the resources and the ability to do that with what I have right now. So that's been brought up by the chair. There's options, but that goes to the council to decide whether they want to spend the money or not. You know, that's it's definitely something that we can put on the agenda to basically blitz that road, which we've already done several times, and the enforcement is huge. We have a focus patrol going on right now on Hockley. So again, right, if we're looking for enforcement, that's different than just visibility. Visibility slows them down, right? And it's a matter of how we get that message out there. But some of that's already been covered. So there's a couple of things we have to look at. Again, right? We just can't stop people for the sake of stopping people. We have to have grounds. We have to have the right to be able to stop these people. So again, it's not that we can't. We just have to make sure that all our ducks are in a row when we're gonna blitz something like that. And again, then part B to that whole thing is, again, right? It comes down to manpower and resources.
Yeah, Terry, you got to remember that Tom and I are Metro guys, so we're used to the Ways and Means Act. Still a different way of policing in the old days.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mr. Chair. The Ways and Means Act now get officers in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Tom, is that good?
Well, it's nice that I brought it out. I would like to hear a little bit more on it. You can have the blitzes. What's happened? The OPP has done it with the commercial vehicles. Why not one saying we're doing one with the motorcycles? I mean, be definitive and saying we're only doing motorcycles today because of the problems that we're having. And we're not hiding anything. Everybody gets pulled over. You do a quick check. Plate looks good. Muffler's good. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here now because we're getting into operational areas, which is outside of the realm of the board, and we don't give direction to the OPP as to what their enforcement and checking policies will be. So unless you have any other questions that are not related to operational matters, we'll move on the agenda.
Okay, appreciate that. I was able to get in under the time limit there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cheyenne, false alarm report.
Hi. Okay, so since from January until May, we had a total of 11 false alarms. All the letters have been sent except for May. I'm a little behind since I'm now doing parking tickets. And I actually believe that the letters going out have been a deterrent, because when I looked at the stats from last year, we had way more false alarms leading into the beginning of COVID than we did now. So we're on it, and I'm going to try and catch up and send out the May letters. That's it.
Okay. Any questions to Cheyenne on the alarm report? Motion to accept the alarm report. John, seconded by Wayne. All in favor, opposed, carried.
And excuse me. Sorry, Mike,
okay.
can I just, sorry, Mr. Chair. Mr. Power, I can send you a copy of this video where you can view the response before you were able to log on.
Yes, appreciate
If
that.
you'd like. Okay, no problem.
He's the best. Okay, Ann, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Nothing to report, I bet.
Unfortunately, I don't have much to report because there haven't been any meetings either. And certainly no public meetings or anyone calling us, or at least the committee that I'm aware of directly. So it's just nice to see you all, I guess, is the best I can say.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, Ann. Appreciate that. And the joint police board meeting. Yeah, we had our joint meeting was done virtually, hosted by MOMER, and basically it was the usual discussion in place with respect to the potential for the joint boards, and also talked about traffic dampering with the various images, things like that. But really there was also some discussion on the towing bylaw, but there was nothing really of any substance that came out of the meeting. The next meeting will be October 22nd, and it's hosted by Orangeville. Whether they're aware of that, I don't know, but it was in the minutes. This was the first meeting of the joint group with Orangeville and Shelburne there, and frankly, I don't believe they knew that it was just sort of an information sharing group. I think they thought it was more of a legislative body, and as such, were a little. Their backs were up on a few things, but I think they eventually figured out that it was strictly a information sharing group. So the next meeting is October 22nd, if we're not all one big board by that time. OPP oral report, Inspector Ward.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to touch on the first quarter of 2021. I'm sure you've all had a chance to review it. So I'm just going to touch on a few things that I think are highlights, and then if there's any questions after that, we can go through it. I kind of touched on some of the staffing changes already. Typical, the minute we get our boots on the ground, they get shifted somewhere else. So we're always running from behind, trying to keep up, right? So just going through a few things, as you can see, touching on the violent crimes. Again, very much down compared to 2020. One sexual assault, one assault. Into property crimes, bit of an increase in theft unders and mischiefs. And again, right, that's I think the theft unders and the mischiefs again are, I hate to blame everything on COVID, but I think some of the people are coming out of their shells and starting to cause some problems. So drug crimes, excuse me, we had one trafficking charge in the first quarter laid. So again, a good investigation done by our community street crimes unit, and with hopefully some successful conclusions in court. But up till now, it's been that's a good hit there. Clearance rates again, right? It's you can see by that the clearance rates are 100% down a little bit here and there. So the billing summary report is what I like to touch on. You can see what's up, what's down. Some of the ones that I'll touch on are the property crimes. Obviously, when you look at the hours, it's up a bit. And again, it's if you look at the specific things, you've got the theft under gasoline drive-offs. There's an increase there. The thefts from motor vehicles, we're still finding that people aren't locking their doors in their cars, and at night they're getting ransacked a bit. So that's part of the issue there. If we go into, you can see the other criminal code violations are up a bit as far as the hours go. And again, that's, we've laid a few fail to comply charges. Again, I talked about the drug call. As you can see there, compared to last year, which was 0, this year it's up. And again, that was an extensive investigation that resulted in trafficking charges. Continuing on, again, what we're finding, and it's been consistent, is the Trespass to Property Act complaints are up. And again, it's, I think, people getting out and starting to move, and especially in Mono, going to the park, going to different places, and they end up trespassing on other people's property, and those reports get called in, and we end up doing investigations on those. Again, what else is going on? Through the operational, one of the big increases we've seen, and this has been county-wide, our assist public calls are up across the board. And what those come down to is we get a lot of calls from residents just asking questions. And so those types of calls fall into the assist public. And again, they're not reaching out to different resources or different advertisements to call here for traffic updates or call here, they call the police. So those get captured as well. Looking at the traffic collisions for the first quarter, collisions were down as far as our investigative hours. So that's, it sounds like it's the opposite. We're saying traffic's increased, but collisions have decreased. And overall, for a total of billing hours for the first quarter, as you can see, there's an increase in hours. And again, it just goes to the increase in certain calls for service. Touching on your traffic enhancement, as you can see, the type of calls for January, February, March, and even some of the stats were available for April into what Larry's been touching on. And as you can see with the stunt driving, right, very, 10, 14, 10. So, he's out there, he's doing the enforcement piece on that part of it as well. And you'll see on the next page, the second page there, the position enhancement analytics for his POTs. As you can see, his numbers are quite increased compared to last year, with 135 in January, 130 in February, 135 again in March. So that officer is definitely doing his enforcement piece. The next one touches on all of Dufferin County for the motor vehicle collisions. And as you can see, we had, this is for all of Dufferin, not that you're that concerned, but 2 fatal injuries, 21 non-fatal injuries, and I gotta put my glasses on to read that. 187 property damage for a total of 210 collisions for the first quarter in Dufferin. And then the next page breaks it down specifically to Mono. So no fatals, 6 non-fatal injury collisions, and 30 property damage collisions. So for a total of 36 collisions in that first quarter. The next page deals specifically for our charges, Provincial Act charges. So as you can see through this, so our part 3, our summonses in mono specific, for the first quarter, we're at 103. So I mean, we're a third of the way to what was charged or what was laid all of last year. So the enforcement's up. And when you look at the part 1 PONs, I mean, for the first quarter, again, we're at 994, and all of last year was 2,144. So again, we're well on our way to beating those numbers this year for sure. So enforcement is heavy in mono. I can assure you of that. And then the last couple pages are strictly just the traffic file registry. And I'm not going to go through all the collisions, but as you can see, they list the primary causes of the collisions. So barring any questions on the first quarter report, that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage in as much as my mono email is not working on this particular computer, so I don't have the paperwork in front.
Don, you're frozen up on us.
Charges are being laid. Are they being laid on our 80-kilometer-per-hour roads, or are they being laid on stretches of road where the speed limit is less than 80 kilometers? The reason I ask that is goes back to Bill 282, which I think I incorrectly identified earlier in the meeting as 182. And that creates a double standard for the penalty for stunt driving. Essentially what it does is that anyone charged with a stunt in a less than 80 kilometer per hour zone suffers the consequence of a 30-day suspension and impoundment, but it changes when you are caught stunting in a speed limit of more than 80 or greater, where it simply is the 6 days and 6 days. I made a personal presentation to the legislative committee that was considering Bill 282, and although I think I had the support of my council members unofficially, and basically suggested that this double standard was terrible law, that stunt driving is stunt driving wherever it occurs, whether it occurs in 80 plus or less than 80 kilometer per hour zones. I challenged the government and the committee to look at the statistics because my suspicion is that the majority of stunting is going on roadways of 80 kilometers or greater. And certainly the releases from the OPP would tend to suggest that on our 400 series highways, it's just as bad as it is on Airport Road. So I'd like to make the request that we keep track of where the stunt charges are being laid.
So to answer your question, that 97% of the charges, the stunt driving charges being laid are on the over 80.
I'm not surprised. But I'd like to be able to go back to my friend, the Minister of Transportation, a year from now and throw more statistics at them because I think this is really, really bad law. And I rather suspect a lot of people agree with me. They are literally rewarding stunt drivers for the act on roads where the speed limit is 80 kilometers or greater.
We can, Yeah, most of it now with the e-ticketing is for the most part, pretty easy to track. So I mean, when you make those requests, Mr. Krillman, it's not that hard to pull those stats to kind of give an idea. It was a little tougher when we didn't have the e-ticketing to try and go back and figure out where they were laid. But now that every e-ticket generates an occurrence and GPS is the location, it's a little easier for us to pull those stats.
Well, and I suspect the wording of some of those tickets goes to the issue of location, speeding X number of kilometers per hour in an 80 kilometer per hour zone, as an example.
Correct.
As distinct from 60 or 45. But the government's defense is absurd. They think that it's more dangerous in urbanized areas. But most of the people making that argument have never driven north of Bloor Street in Toronto.
Correct.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Motion to receive the OPP oral report. Wayne, seconded by John. All in favor, opposed, carried. Correspondence. We did send the 2020 detachment commander's feedback report, which dealt with the last year of the previous acting inspector's job, and we received the acknowledgement back from Chief Superintendent Peer. It was an excellent report, excellent work done by the detachment commander at the time, and the current person sitting in the good chair there is maintaining that forward momentum, and look forward to writing the feedback report next spring if we're still together as a board. Second item of correspondence is I just received yesterday a report from Mike Dunmore from Public Works, and basically it was the speed sign report that they had set up on Mona Adjula Town Line between 25 and 30. I believe the members of the board have received a copy of that letter. Basically, there was 3,280 vehicles with 321 speed violations above 81 kilometers. So that was 11% of the traffic. But funny, the average speed for all the days was 59 kilometers in the 80s. So it seems like the traffic is pretty slow in the area, except for the few miscreants that are doing 126K in the zone. So that information has been received by us. It's interesting. The this speed measuring device and flashing signs are deployed at the pleasure of council. I had asked Mr. Dunmore whether the signs could be deployed to assist us as a police service board in providing information and data to the inspector and the OPP to support some of the complaints that we're getting. And I was told very clearly that the service board has no direction over the use of these items, and it's strictly council's. So it's rather sad that that there's no input that we would require. It is put way down on a list because council has decided they want to satisfy a request of some resident, and it ties up the machine for a month at a time. So not happy about that. Deputy Mayor Creelman, I don't know what you could say about or have a word with staff about that, but we do have priorities as well that might be more than somebody that lives on French Drive that is worried about a school bus and it ties up the machine from us.
Well, if that's the policy, it's certainly nothing I was aware of. I think it's been fairly shall we say, relaxed in as much as there's a demand from somewhere to have the device installed and utilized for a period of time. And then along comes another resident or group of residents who make the same request. If the Police Services Board has a suggested location for this device, I am happy to advance that at council, and will do so with the strongest authority that I can. I don't want to second guess people's ideas here, but I mean, we've had a presentation from residents of the Hockley Road, and it would strike me that that should be maybe the next location for measurement of speed and a warning sign. It has been used on the Hockley Road before, but not in that particular location.
Yeah, I just think that, like, in particular right now, it's located in a certain location, and in fact, it's pointing in the wrong direction to measure where the speeders are coming from. And I suggested that to Mr. Dunmore, and he said, oh, sorry, you'll have to go back on the end of the list again. And anyway, I'm not going to debate the.
I'll take care of that, Mike. I'll take care of that. There is no list as far as I know, and I think we should have a priority, frankly. And frankly, Terry should be able to suggest locations, because it would be of assistance to him in how he deploys his resources.
That's what my thoughts would be.
Mr. Chair, it's nice to have the analytics, right? I mean, it's if you delve into this one, that we were given, I mean, you can see that a lot of the speeding was a perceived problem, right? Out of all the vehicles it marked, there's not a lot of charges that would have been laid because of the speeds. So it's nice to have those analytics. What's nice, again, I go back to the Black Cat spiel, but I mean, the Black Cat even dials it right down to time of day, which is nice for us to be able to say, okay, instead of putting someone out there at 9 in the morning, we need them out there at 3 in the afternoon. So we can even dial in when our officers need to be out on that road.
Right. Great. Thanks a lot, everybody.
If the Police Services Board wants to pass a motion instructing me to take a request to the next round of budget discussions to purchase a Black Cat, I'd be happy to do that.
Well, I guess the issue that I have is staff going to be able to support the operation of the Black Cat and the downloading of the information. I know
so Mr. Chair, if I could, I would like to take control of that. If one was purchased, I would want us to control it. We then would have an officer that's trained on deploying it, pulling the stats off it. We would have that firsthand.
Okay, John. So how would you like to handle this?
Well, I would welcome a motion urging the town of Mono to purchase a Black Cat to be utilized by the OPP in determining where it needs to increase or modify enforcement.
Yeah, makes a lot.
I'm happy.
And I could just add to that too, Mr. Chair. The salesman, I think he's part owner of the company actually that supply those. He would be more than willing to come to council and do, like, even with the virtual, and do a presentation to council. I've seen his presentation; it's very impressive, and just so you know what the unit itself can do. That's just a suggestion. If that's something that council would need to see, then Jim Sheehan is his name. He would be more than willing to pop into a council meeting and do a presentation for council.
When?
Yeah, I just a device like that. I mean, to help Terry and his staff to be utilized, in the right places, just makes a lot of sense. In today's world, everything is spread so thin, and there's not an endless supply of money that some people seem to think there is, but there isn't. You know, there's budgets everywhere. Some seem to ignore them, but I'm not in that category. And I think it would be allow us to utilize their, you know, what we're paying for with the OPP in a more efficient and you know, in a more scientific manner almost, because then you have data there where you can utilize your staff, and if the Black Cat actually does the time stamping, that's as Terry said, it just allows them to you know. Sorry about that. Resources in the right places. You know, most of the time, maybe as things go, they'll catch on. People do, as Terry said as well. But I think it would just help utilize the resources more effectively. It just makes sense. What was the cost of the device? I think you mentioned, Micah, and last time, the cost of the Black Cat.
It's around the $4,700.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, to me, you know,
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense for utilizing, you know, the OPP resources that we all contribute to.
And the OPP does have the license for the software for the download, so so we wouldn't be buying the license.
Okay.
So we're looking at a motion from the Police Services Board to request that the town will purchase a Black Cat speed measuring device that would be utilized by the Ontario Provincial Police for detachment to measure, to assist in the measurement of speed in problem areas within Mono, and to help determine enforcement priorities. Sound fair?
Yes, sounds
good.
Yep, sounds good.
Cheyenne, I guess you'll listen back to the video to figure out what I just said. Okay.
Yes,
Moved by me,
exactly.
seconded by
Yeah.
Wayne. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. So moving right along with high speed and very little accuracy, we come to the end. I lost my agenda. Okay, any other business? We did cover off, there was an item in new business to respond to the town hall meeting comments residents issued during the town hall meeting, or is there something else on that, John?
Well, actually, and ironically, the major issue raised during the town hall was the individual who lives on the Mono-Adjula town line who was complaining about speeding. So one of the outcomes of that was that we deployed the device that we currently have up in that area. I find it ironic as well, because the same individual wants us to pave the road. Not aware, obviously, that paving the road is going to increase speeding. So there you go.
And traffic. It's
But,
yeah, you gotta be careful what you wish for in those ones.
and traffic. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. I'm on 25, and I don't like the dirt road on my. I have a classic car, and but it just there's pros and cons, right? Because I know, but it already gets busy enough here when they close 10 for accidents, and it's 25 used quite a bit. So paved, it would be a lot worse, though.
I noticed most of the accidents.
So the other,
all the accidents were on 25 side road there too, Wayne.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, down here. Yeah, but apparently according to the Ministry of Transport, there's no problem with 25 and Highway 10. It's so, but I disagree with. But I mean, I very seldom turn left off of 10 onto 25 because I have that fear of getting rammed behind because of the merging lanes there. It's pretty scary. So.
Right. John, you had another comment there?
No, I was just going to say that the other issues arising from the town hall meeting are the usual things such as speeding and enforcement and that kind of thing. But the very specific outcome of that town hall meeting was the deployment of the existing speed measuring device up in the Mono-Angela town line area. I find it interesting that one of its last locations was at the foot of the third line at Hockley Valley Road. And it was installed there in such a fashion that it delivered a message, but it wasn't taking any readings. So I jumped in and said, well, what's the point? Let's activate the readings, which they did. And it turns out that, we had people in a very, very short stretch of road traveling 120 kilometers per hour. Not many, but a few. And the response I got from one individual who remained anonymous was, well, maybe they were just testing the system. I don't think so.
Very good. Any other new business, folks? Yeah, Wayne.
Terry, I have a question for Terry. I've heard this thing from a couple of individuals, and it could be just rumors about things, but is it that thieves are utilizing drones to case out properties to see, like, where they have a tractor or cars or ATVs or anything, and then coming back and robbing them? But I just heard this from two different sources in the area, and I just don't. I don't know if that's a rumor or if it's something that the thieves are now utilizing in this situation that we're in. It just might could be a rumor, but I just wanted to sort of ask that question in this forum. So.
Yeah, I'll answer your question through the chair. That's the first time I've heard of that. I'll make some inquiries. I'll let you know.
Okay.
I haven't heard that. You know what? Not a bad idea, right?
No,
I hadn't heard that, but I'll check with our street crime sergeant and our detective sergeant and see if they've heard anything like that.
Okay.
I've heard that, and I'm offering my services as not a bad skeet shooter.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of flying drones now that that the laws have changed in drone flying. I think you have to be licensed, I think, as I understand. Although the thieves wouldn't care about that. That's it's to me that's like.
I'll get back to you, Wayne. I'll make some inquiries and I'll see if anybody else has heard that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have a question for Terry, if I could. Terry, have we had any and this is mercifully coming to an end, and two of us are scheduled to have our second shots tomorrow. But COVID enforcement, have we had any issues of large parties, gatherings, warnings, and/or charges?
In specific to mono?
Yeah.
No. The short answer, no. We get a few resident checks, a few calls from neighbors thinking, right, but nothing serious, nothing where any charges have been laid. I think it's funny you say that. I just looked at those stats yesterday, and I believe we had 2 charges laid in Orangeville, but nothing out in the townships.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business? Hearing none. Got a motion to adjourn the meeting at, we'll call it 2:30, moved by John, seconded by Wayne. All in favor, opposed, carried. Our next meeting is September 15th. We'll call it at 1 o'clock still. Not sure whether we'll be virtual or in person, so we'll leave it as it is at the present time. And motion to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of the Mono Police Services Board held on Wednesday, the 16th of June. Wayne Evans is the mover, seconder is John Creelman. All in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good summer. until our next meeting. And Cheyenne, thank you for staying alive today for the meeting, so I didn't have to take the minutes. and I did send you that motion that I had generated plus my introduction, so you can add those into the minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Good
great
Bye-bye.
summer, guys, gals, and take care,
Bye.
Tom.
Bye.